The massive alien ship appeared above Earth's moon like a dark storm cloud. It was bigger than any city on Earth, covered in strange metal that seemed to eat light. The ship's name was Dominion's Edge, and it belonged to the Zephyrian Empire. Inside the ship, Commander Vexthul stood on his bridge. He was tall, almost 3 meters, with green scales and yellow eyes. Scars covered his face and arms from many battles. He wore a black uniform with gold symbols that showed his high rank. The commander had conquered many worlds for the Empire. Earth would be just another easy victory. "Open all communication channels to the human planet," Vexthul ordered. His voice was deep and cold like winter wind. A young officer with blue scales touched controls on his panel. "All channels open, Commander." Vexthul stepped forward to the main screen. He knew this moment would be remembered in history. Another world would bow to the mighty Zephyrian Empire. "Humans of Earth," he began, his voice reaching every radio, television, and communication device on the planet. "I am Commander Vexthul of the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered over 400 worlds across the galaxy. Your primitive planet is now under our control." On Earth, people stopped what they were doing. In offices, homes, cars, and schools, everyone heard the alien voice. Some screamed. Others stood frozen with fear. Children cried and held their parents. "You have 72 of your standard hours to surrender," Vexthul continued. "You will give us 40% of everything your factories make. You will give us 30% of your people to work for us. You will obey all our commands without question." The alien commander paused, enjoying the fear he was creating. "If you refuse, we will destroy your planet. We will kill every human. We will turn your world into dust and rocks floating in space. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. Earth fell silent for a moment. Then chaos began. In the United Earth Council building in New Geneva, alarms were ringing. The emergency meeting room filled with leaders from every nation. President Chen of the Pacific Union was there. Prime Minister Williams from the European Federation rushed in. General Martinez from the American states arrived with his military advisors. "This cannot be real," said President Chen, her hands shaking as she held the translated message. "Aliens cannot just appear and demand we surrender." "The ship is real," replied Dr. Sarah Kim from the Space Monitoring Center. "Our telescopes confirm it. The ship is approximately 15 kilometers long. Our computers cannot identify the metal it's made from." Prime Minister Williams looked pale. "What do we know about this Zephyrian Empire?" "Nothing," Dr. Kim answered. "Our radio telescopes have never detected their signals. They must come from very far away." General Martinez stood up. His uniform was covered with medals from various Earth wars. "We need to consider our military options." "Military options?" President Chen laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "General, they crossed space to reach us. Their ship is the size of Manhattan. What military options do we have?" The room filled with worried voices. Some leaders wanted to negotiate. Others suggested giving the aliens part of what they demanded. A few talked about hiding underground. Then the main door opened. A woman walked in wearing a dark blue military uniform. She was about 50 years old, with short gray hair and a scar running from her left ear to her chin. Her left eye was not natural. It was a cybernetic replacement that glowed softly blue. "Admiral Volkov," General Martinez said with respect. "Thank you for coming." Admiral Sarah Volkov was known throughout Earth's military. Her nickname was Baba Yaga, after the old Russian fairy tale about a witch who could be helpful or terrible. Sarah had earned this name during the Titan mining wars 20 years ago, when corporations fought secret battles for control of Saturn's moons. "I heard the alien message," Sarah said in her Russian accent. She walked to the front of the room, her military boots making sharp sounds on the floor. "They want us to surrender." "Admiral, we must be realistic," said President Chen. "They have technology we cannot match. Perhaps we can negotiate." Sarah turned her cybernetic eye toward the president. The blue glow made her scar look deeper. "Negotiate?" "They did not come here to negotiate. They came to take what they want." "But surely we can find some middle ground," Prime Minister Williams said. "Give them something, but not everything." "You think like sheep," Sarah replied coldly. "You think if we act weak, the wolf will eat only some of us and leave the rest alone. But wolves do not work that way." The room became quiet. Everyone knew Sarah's history. She had fought in the corporate wars when Earth's biggest companies used private armies to fight for control of asteroid mining rights. She had seen what happened when people tried to negotiate with those who only understood force. "What do you suggest, Admiral?" asked General Martinez. Sarah walked to the large window that showed Earth below. City lights twinkled like stars. Somewhere up there, beyond the blue sky, the alien ship waited for their answer. During the corporate wars, Yukimura Corporation thought they could force the independent miners to surrender. They brought battleships to Titan. They made demands. They threatened to kill civilians. She turned back to face the room. "Do you know what happened to Yukimura Corporation?" No one answered, but everyone knew the story. Yukimura Corporation no longer existed. The miners did not have big ships or fancy weapons, Sarah continued, but they had something else. They had the will to fight for their home. They turned mining equipment into weapons. They used their ships like guided missiles. They fought with everything they had. "This is different," President Chen said. "These are aliens with advanced technology." "Technology did not save Yukimura," Sarah replied. "The will to fight saved the miners. The will to never surrender." She walked around the table looking at each leader. "I have read the histories of conquered worlds. The aliens always make the same offer first. Surrender now and some of you will live as slaves. Fight back and all of you will die." "But they cannot destroy an entire planet," Prime Minister Williams said hopefully. Sarah's cybernetic eye focused on him. "They have destroyed entire planets. Their records show it. Worlds that refused to surrender became examples for others." The room fell silent again. Outside the window, Earth looked peaceful and beautiful. It was hard to imagine it as dead rocks floating in space. "So what do we do?" asked President Chen quietly. Sarah stood straight, her military bearing making her seem taller. "We have faced extinction before. When the Ice Age came, humans survived. When plagues killed millions, humans survived. When we fought world wars, humans survived. When corporations tried to control us in space, humans survived." She paused, looking at each face around the table. "We survive because we do not kneel. We do not surrender. We fight against impossible odds?" President Chen asked. "The odds were impossible when our ancestors fought with stone tools against lions and bears," Sarah said. "The odds were impossible when we learned to fly. When we went to space, when we built colonies on Mars and Europa." She moved to the communication console. "I will send our answer to the aliens." "Wait," said General Martinez. "Should we not vote on this?" Sarah looked at him with something like a smile, but it was not warm. "Very well. All in favor of surrender?" No hands went up. "All in favor of negotiation?" 3 hands rose hesitantly. "All in favor of telling these aliens that Earth does not bow to threats?" The rest of the hands went up, including the 3 who had voted for negotiation. Sarah activated the communication system. Her voice would reach the alien ship and be recorded in history. "Commander Vexthal of the Zephyrian Empire. This is Admiral Sarah Volkov of Earth. We have received your demands." She paused, her cybernetic eye glowing brighter. "Our answer is simple. We will not surrender. We will not serve. We will not bow. If you want our world, you will have to take it from our dead hands." The transmission ended. Earth had chosen war. Commander Vexthal stared at the communication console with disbelief. The message from Earth had finished playing, but he asked his communications officer to play it again. The human female's voice filled the bridge once more, cold and defiant. "Sir," said his second-in-command, a thin Zephyrian with silver scales named Sub-Commander Krell. Perhaps the translation was incorrect? Vexthal's yellow eyes narrowed. "No, the translation is correct. These humans refuse to surrender." Around the bridge, other officers looked confused. In 400 worlds, no species had ever refused the Empire's first demand. Most surrendered immediately when they saw the size of Zephyrian ships. A few tried to negotiate, offering different terms, but none had simply said no. "Sir, our intelligence reports on the humans," Krell said, calling up data on the main screen. "Their technology is primitive. They have only recently developed faster-than-light travel. Their largest ships are used for mining asteroids and transporting goods between their planets." The screen showed images captured by Zephyrian spy drones. Human ships looked clumsy and ugly compared to the smooth, deadly vessels of the Empire. Most were just metal boxes with engines attached. Their weapons were simple, kinetic cannons that shot metal slugs and basic energy shields. "Their military consists of approximately 2,000 combat vessels," Krell continued. "Most are small patrol craft. They have no dreadnoughts, no planet-killer weapons, no quantum disruptors." Vexthal studied the data. The humans lived on one main planet and had small colonies on three others. Their population was only 8 billion. The Zephyrian Empire controlled trillions of beings across hundreds of star systems. They have fought wars among themselves, another officer reported. Corporate conflicts in their outer system 20 years ago. The battles were small-scale using converted civilian vessels. This made Vexthul laugh, a sound like rocks grinding together. They fought with mining ships and cargo haulers. These humans know nothing of real war. The bridge crew joined their commander's laughter. The idea that beings who fought with improvised civilian craft could challenge the mighty Zephyrian military was amusing. Perhaps they are simply ignorant, suggested Krell. They do not understand our power. When they see our warships in action, they will surrender. Vexthul nodded slowly. Yes, they need a demonstration, a show of imperial might to cure them of their foolish pride. He turned to his tactical officer. How many ships do we need to break their resistance? The tactical officer, a scarred veteran named Commander Thane, considered the question. Sir, based on their primitive technology, a single cruiser should be sufficient. However, to ensure complete victory and prevent any possibility of organized resistance, I recommend a squadron. How many ships in this squadron? 12, sir. 3 heavy cruisers, 6 destroyers, and 3 support vessels. More than enough to destroy their entire military. Vexthul thought about this. Sending his entire fleet would look weak, as if the Empire feared these primitive humans. Better to use just enough force to crush them quickly and completely. Make it so, he ordered. Prepare Squadron 7 for immediate deployment. I want their resistance broken within 6 hours. As his officers rushed to carry out orders, Vexthul remained on the bridge studying the images of Earth. It was a blue and green planet, covered with water and plant life. It would make a beautiful addition to the Empire once the humans were properly controlled. Meanwhile, in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, something was happening that Zephyrian sensors could not detect. Hidden mining stations that had operated quietly for decades were receiving new orders. These stations had been built during the corporate wars when different companies needed secret bases for their private conflicts. Admiral Sarah Volkov stood in the command center of Mining Station Omega 7, which officially did not exist. The station was built inside a large asteroid, invisible to normal scans. Around her, technicians worked at control panels that had not been used for 20 years. Bring all defense platforms online, Sarah ordered. Authorization code Baba Yaga 77 Alpha. Throughout the solar system, pieces of space debris that looked like broken satellites and discarded equipment began to change. Hidden panels slid open, revealing weapons and sensor arrays. These defense platforms had been secretly placed during the corporate wars and forgotten by most people. But Sarah remembered. Admiral, reported Captain Torres, her chief of staff. All hidden installations are responding. We have 47 armed platforms throughout the system, plus 16 concealed shipyards. Sarah nodded. During the corporate wars, the independent miners had learned to hide their resources. Big corporations could build obvious military bases, but the miners had to be clever. They built their defenses to look like junk floating in space. What about the mining fleet? She asked. 63 heavy mining vessels, all equipped with military-grade modification packages, Torres replied. The conversion can be completed in 18 hours. Mining ships were perfect for space combat, though most people did not realize it. They were built to work in dangerous environments with strong hulls and powerful engines. Their mining lasers could cut through solid rock. They could also cut through enemy ships. Their cargo holds could carry missiles instead of ore. Begin the modifications, Sarah ordered, and send a message to Captain Yuki at the Mars shipyards. Tell her it is time to remember old promises. Captain Yuki Tanaka had fought beside Sarah during the corporate wars. She now ran the civilian shipyards at Mars, building cargo haulers and passenger vessels. But her yards could build other things too if needed. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, another old soldier received Sarah's message. Colonel James Mitchell commanded what looked like a simple mining operation. In reality, his people were extracting something more valuable than ice and minerals. They were maintaining weapon stockpiles that officially had been destroyed after the corporate wars. Sir, his aide reported, Admiral Volkov's message just came in. Project Raven is authorized. Mitchell smiled grimly. Project Raven was a collection of weapons too dangerous for normal military use. Weapons developed when desperate miners fought giant corporations with unlimited resources. Some of these weapons had been banned by Earth's government as too cruel or too destructive, but the government had not known about all of them. Back on the Zephyrian flagship, Commander Vexthul watched his squadron prepare for departure. Squadron 7 was a powerful force that had conquered 6 star systems in the past year. The ships were sleek and deadly, covered with advanced weapons and protected by energy shields that could stop any attack. "Squadron ready for departure, sir," reported Sub-Commander Krell. "Excellent. Send them to the human homeworld. Tell Commander Thane to broadcast his attack on all frequencies. I want every human to see what happens when they defy the Empire." The 12 Zephyrian warships moved away from the main fleet, their engines glowing like blue stars. They would reach Earth in 6 hours, giving the humans time to think about their foolish decision. Vexthul settled into his command chair, already composing the victory message he would send to the Imperial High Command. Another world conquered, another species brought under Imperial control. His reputation would grow even stronger. He did not know that Admiral Sarah Volkov was also preparing a message, but her message was not about victory. It was about survival, and humans had survived many impossible things by being more clever, more desperate, and more dangerous than their enemies expected. In the depths of space, pieces of old mining equipment drifted silently, waiting. Hidden bases powered up systems that had slept for 20 years. Ships that looked like harmless cargo haulers received new weapons and orders. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn something important about humans. When they fought among themselves, they held back. They followed rules and tried to limit damage. They fought like civilized beings, but when someone threatened their home, all rules disappeared. When someone tried to make them slaves, civilized behavior ended. The Empire had conquered 400 worlds. But none of those worlds had been defended by beings who learned warfare in the cold vacuum of space, where every mistake meant death and only the most ruthless survived. Commander Vexthul was confident his squadron would crush human resistance in hours. Admiral Sarah Volkov was counting on that confidence. Confident enemies made mistakes, and in space combat, mistakes were usually fatal. The first battle of the war would begin soon. The Zephyrian Empire expected an easy victory against primitive humans. They were about to discover that sometimes, primitive could be another word for dangerous. Commander Thane led Squadron 7 toward Earth with complete confidence. His flagship, the Imperial Sword, was a heavy cruiser that had destroyed planets. Behind him followed 11 other warships, each one capable of wiping out the primitive human fleet. "Sir, we are approaching the human homeworld," reported his navigation officer. "Sensors show minimal military presence in orbit. A few patrol craft and some cargo vessels." Thane studied the tactical display. The human ships looked exactly as intelligence had described. Ugly metal boxes with basic weapons. Most were not even trying to hide. They floated in predictable orbital paths like targets in a training exercise. "They must know we are coming," said his weapons officer, a young Zephyrian eager for his first real battle. "Yet they do not run or hide. Are all humans this stupid?" "Apparently," Thane replied. "Perhaps they think their primitive kinetic weapons can damage our shields." The crew laughed. Zephyrian shields could stop plasma cannons and particle beams. Human slug throwers were toys by comparison. "Sir, incoming transmission from one of their ships," the communications officer reported. "Put it on screen. Let us hear what these doomed beings have to say." The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of a human vessel. The captain was an older man with gray hair and a calm expression. He wore a simple blue uniform without fancy decorations. "Zephyrian ships, this is Captain Harrison of the Earth Defense Force. You are entering our space without permission. Please state your intentions," Thane laughed out loud. "Our intentions? We intend to destroy you and claim this system for the Empire, unless you surrender immediately." Captain Harrison nodded as if he had expected this answer. "I see, then I have a message for you from Admiral Volkov." "What message?" "She said to tell you that you made a mistake coming here." The transmission ended. Thane shook his head in disbelief. These humans were either very brave or completely insane. "All ships assume attack formation," he ordered. "Target their largest vessels first. Make this quick and clean." The Zephyrian squadron moved into a perfect battle line, their weapons powering up. Energy readings spiked as plasma cannons and missile tubes prepared to fire. This would be the shortest battle in Imperial history. "Sir, I'm detecting some unusual readings," the sensor officer reported. "There appears to be more debris in this area than our charts indicated." Thane glanced at the display. Space around Earth was cluttered with old satellites, broken equipment, and discarded materials, typical for a young spacefaring civilization that had not learned proper waste management. "Ignore the junk," he ordered. "Focus on their ships." "Firing solutions locked," reported the weapons officer. "Ready to engage. All ships, open fire." 12 Zephyrian warships unleashed their weapons simultaneously. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked through space toward the human vessels. It should have been over in seconds. Instead, everything went wrong at once. The space junk around Earth suddenly came alive. What had looked like broken satellites opened up to reveal hidden weapon platforms. What had appeared to be discarded equipment lit up with targeting systems and missile launchers. Dozens of concealed gun platforms opened fire at the same moment. "Shields," Thane shouted, but his crew was already working. Energy barriers sprang up around the Zephyrian ships, deflecting the first wave of human fire. But there was more. Much more. The human cargo ships that had looked helpless suddenly changed. Hull plates slid aside to reveal massive weapons. Ships that had appeared to be simple freighters showed their true nature. They were warships disguised as civilian vessels. "Sir, those are not cargo ships," his sensor officer yelled. "They're showing military-grade armor and weapon signatures." Mining vessel Titan's Hammer opened fire with cutting lasers designed to slice through asteroids. The beams hit the destroyer Dark Victory and cut deep into its hull. Alarms screamed as atmosphere vented into space. "That's impossible," Thane's weapons officer shouted. "Mining lasers cannot penetrate military shields." But they could. Mining lasers worked by focusing incredible amounts of energy into very small areas. They were designed to cut through the toughest materials in space. Zephyrian shields were made to deflect wide-area attacks, not focused cutting beams. More mining ships revealed themselves, coming from behind asteroids and debris fields where they had been hiding. Each one was armed with industrial equipment that had been turned into weapons of war. Rock crushers became kinetic cannons. Ore processors became missile factories. Fusion torches became plasma weapons. "All ships concentrate fire on the large mining vessels," Thane ordered. But the human ships were not fighting like any enemy the Zephyrians had ever faced. Instead of forming battle lines and trading shots, they scattered in all directions. Some dove toward Earth's atmosphere, using the planet's gravity to increase their speed. Others disappeared behind the moon, only to reappear from unexpected angles. Industrial Pride, a massive ore hauler, came at the cruiser Stormbreaker from directly above. The Zephyrian captain tried to rotate his ship to bring weapons to bear, but the mining vessel was too close and moving too fast. Industrial Pride rammed Stormbreaker at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire and twisted metal. The blast was so bright that it could be seen from Earth's surface. "They're using their ships as missiles," Thane's tactical officer reported in shock. "They're ramming our vessels." This was impossible. No civilized species used ramming attacks. It was suicide, throwing away ships and crews for minimal tactical gain. But the humans seemed to consider it a perfectly reasonable tactic. The destroyer Lightning Fist found itself surrounded by smaller human vessels, modified patrol, boats and mining ships that moved like angry wasps. They were too small and fast for the destroyer's main weapons to track, but their cutting lasers and improvised weapons slowly carved through the warship's armor. "Sir, we're losing Lightning Fist," reported the communications officer. "Her captain is requesting immediate assistance." Before Thane could respond, the destroyer exploded. The human ships immediately scattered, looking for new targets. "How many ships have we lost?" Thane demanded. 3 destroyed, 2 heavily damaged, his aide reported. "The humans have lost." 1 vessel confirmed destroyed. The ramming attack had cost the humans 1 ship. But that same attack had destroyed a Zephyrian cruiser worth more than most planets. It was the worst trade ratio in Imperial military history. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human flagship," the communications officer said. On the screen appeared a woman Thane recognized from intelligence files. Admiral Sarah Volkov, the human military leader. Her scarred face and cybernetic eye made her look like something from a nightmare. "Commander Thane," she said in accented English that the translators converted to perfect Zephyrian. "I am Admiral Sarah Volkov. Do you know what my people call me?" Thane did not answer. "They call me Baba Yaga. In our old stories, Baba Yaga is a witch who lives in the dark forest. She can be helpful to those who show respect. But to those who come to her home with demands and threats," she smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. To those people, she brings death. You have destroyed 3 of our ships, Thane replied, trying to sound confident. But we still outnumber you. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. Deaths? Sarah laughed. Commander, this is not a battle. This is a lesson. We are teaching you what happens when someone threatens our home. More human ships appeared on sensors, coming from directions that should have been empty space. Hidden bases throughout the asteroid belt were launching vessels that had been concealed for decades. Ships that looked like harmless civilian craft revealed weapons and military-grade systems. Sir, Thane's sensor officer reported quietly. I'm counting over 200 human vessels now, and more keep appearing. Thane stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Intelligence had said the humans had 2,000 military ships total, but hundreds were appearing just in this one battle zone. Where had they all come from? The mining operations, his tactical officer realized. Sir, their mining operations throughout the system were not just for resources. They were hiding military assets. It was brilliant and terrifying. For 20 years, the humans had been building hidden bases and concealed weapons throughout their star system. Every mining station was a potential fortress. Every cargo hauler was a potential warship. Every piece of industrial equipment was a potential weapon. Sir, we need to withdraw, his aide said quietly. We're outnumbered and our ships are not designed for this type of combat. Thane knew his aide was right. But withdrawing would mean admitting defeat to primitive humans. It would mean telling Commander Vexthal that the mighty Zephyrian Empire had been beaten by beings who fought with converted mining equipment. All ships, fighting withdrawal to the edge of the system, he finally ordered. We will regroup and... His words were cut off as the Imperial sword shuddered under heavy fire. 3 human ships had appeared from behind a small asteroid, their cutting lasers focused on his flagship's engine section. Damage report, he shouted. Main engines offline! Navigation compromised. We're losing life support on decks 7 through 12. On the screen, Admiral Volkov was still there, watching with her cold, inhuman eye. Commander, she said softly, before you leave our space, I want you to take a message back to your empire. The human ship stopped firing, but they kept their weapons. Train Commander Vexthal stood on his bridge, staring at the damaged remains of Squadron 7. 3 ships completely destroyed. 3 more so badly damaged they might never fight again. Half his attack force eliminated by primitive humans using converted mining equipment. This is impossible, he said for the 10th time since receiving Thane's report. Our intelligence was perfect. The humans had no significant military assets. Sub-Commander Krell studied the battle recordings with growing unease. The humans had fought like no species the Empire had ever encountered. They used civilian ships as weapons, turned industrial equipment into military assets, and seemed to have no concern for their own losses. Sir, the worst part is not what they did, Krell said quietly. It's what they said. The human admiral threatened to bring the war to us. Vexthal's yellow eyes narrowed. Empty threats from a species that barely knows how to travel between stars. They cannot reach our territory. Commander, their mining vessels are designed for long-range operations in hostile environments. They have the fuel capacity and life support systems for extended voyages. Before Vexthal could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Sir, emergency transmission from Outpost Kepler 7, the communications officer reported. They're under attack. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of a small Zephyrian station on the edge of Imperial space. The station commander, a middle-aged female with silver scales, looked panicked. This is Commander Yells at Kepler 7. We're being attacked by unknown vessels. They just appeared out of nowhere and started firing. What ships? Vexthal demanded. How many? What configuration? They look like cargo haulers, sir, but they're armed with weapons I've never seen before. They're cutting through our shields like they don't exist. The transmission filled with static and explosions. When it cleared, Commander Yells was gone. The bridge around her was on fire and alien voices could be heard speaking in the background. Then a new figure appeared on screen. It was a human male in a dark uniform, his face scarred from old battles. This is Captain Torres of the Earth Defense Force, he said in perfect Zephyrian. Kepler 7 is now under human control. We have taken your commander and crew prisoner. They will be treated according to the rules of war, which is better than your empire has done for others. Vexthal felt his blood turn cold. A human ship thousands of light years from Earth had just captured an Imperial outpost. How did you travel so far so quickly? He demanded. Captain Torres smiled grimly. We've been traveling for weeks, Commander. Did you think we would wait for you to bring more ships to Earth? We brought the war to you instead. Impossible. You do not have the ships or the range. We have mining vessels designed to work in the outer systems of distant stars. We have supply ships that can operate for months without returning to base. And we have something else your empire has forgotten. What? We have the will to fight for our freedom. The transmission ended. Within seconds, more emergency signals began arriving from across the Imperial frontier. Outpost Delta 9 under attack by human raiders. Mining station Helix Prime destroyed. Supply convoy Route 77 missing. Last seen being pursued by unknown vessels. Sir, we're receiving reports from 17 different locations. The communications officer reported, his voice rising with each update. The humans are attacking throughout the outer territories. Vexthul stared at the tactical display showing the location of each attack. The humans were not randomly striking targets. They were hitting supply lines, communication relays, and isolated outposts. They were trying to disrupt Imperial operations across an entire sector of space. How many human ships are involved in these attacks? He asked. Unknown, sir. The attackers use hit-and-run tactics. They appear suddenly, attack quickly, then disappear before our forces can respond. This was a nightmare scenario. The Empire's strength came from its ability to project power across vast distances using established supply lines and communication networks. If those systems were disrupted, entire fleets could be left stranded without fuel or ammunition. Sir, incoming priority transmission from Admiral Corex of the 4th Fleet, Krell reported. The screen showed another Zephyrian commander, this one aboard a massive dreadnought. Admiral Corex was a veteran of dozens of campaigns. His green scales marked with scars from 100 battles. Vexthul, what is the situation with these human raiders? Corex demanded without preamble. They've destroyed 3 of my supply convoys in the past 6 hours. They're using converted civilian vessels, Vexthul replied. Mining ships and cargo haulers armed with industrial equipment. Industrial equipment that cuts through military-grade shields, Corex said grimly. My ship captains report that human weapons behave unlike anything in our databases. They seem specifically designed to defeat our defensive systems. This was true. Zephyrian shields were optimized to stop energy weapons and particle beams, the standard weapons of civilized warfare. But human industrial tools worked differently. Mining lasers focused enormous power into tiny areas. Rock crushers accelerated debris to incredible speeds. Fusion torches created streams of superheated plasma. These were not military weapons, but they were more effective against Imperial ships than many military weapons would have been. Sir, reported his intelligence officer, we're beginning to understand human tactics. They're not trying to win battles in the traditional sense. They're trying to make continued operations in this region impossible. Explain. Every supply convoy they destroy means our ships cannot refuel. Every communication relay they attack means we cannot coordinate our forces. Every outpost they capture gives them intelligence about our operations. Vexthul began to understand the scope of the problem. The humans were not just raiders. They were conducting a sophisticated campaign designed to paralyze Imperial forces throughout the region. They cannot maintain these operations indefinitely, he said. Their ships must need fuel and supplies too. His intelligence officer looked uncomfortable. Sir, human mining vessels are designed to operate independently for months. They can refuel by processing raw materials from asteroids and gas giants. They can manufacture replacement parts using onboard industrial equipment. This was getting worse by the minute. The humans had essentially turned their entire civilian fleet into a distributed military force that could operate anywhere in space, without external support. Furthermore, the intelligence officer continued, they appear to be using psychological warfare tactics. What do you mean? They're broadcasting messages on Imperial frequencies, stories about their attacks, claims about their capabilities, threats about what they will do to other Imperial worlds. As if summoned by these words, the communications officer spoke up. Sir, we're receiving one of those broadcasts now. Put it on screen. The display showed the familiar scarred face of Admiral Sarah Volkov. She was no longer on a ship bridge, but seemed to be in some kind of command center built into an asteroid. People of the Zephyrian Empire, she began, her voice carrying across space to reach Imperial worlds throughout the region. Your government has told you that the Empire is strong and invincible. They have told you that you are safe under Imperial protection. She paused, her cybernetic eye glowing brighter. They lied. Behind her, screens showed footage of destroyed Imperial ships and captured outposts. In the past week, human forces have destroyed 27 Imperial military installations. We have captured 15 supply convoys. We have eliminated over 200 Imperial warships. The numbers were accurate. Vexthul had read the same reports. Your empire believed it could threaten our world and force us to surrender. Instead, we have brought the war to your territory. Your supply lines are cut. Your outposts are destroyed. Your ships are running out of fuel. She leaned closer to the camera. But this is only the beginning. We know the locations of your major fleet bases. We know your supply routes and communication networks. We know which worlds produce your weapons and which ones grow your food. Vexthul felt a chill run down his spine. Soon, human ships will visit every world in your empire. We will give each one the same choice your commander gave to Earth. Surrender and live as our prisoners, or fight and face destruction. The transmission paused, then Admiral Volkov spoke again, this time directly to the camera. Commander Vexthul, I know you are listening. You have 48 hours to withdraw all Imperial forces from human space and return to your own territory. If you do not, we will begin targeting your home worlds. She cannot be serious, Vexthul muttered. They do not have the ships to attack major Imperial worlds. But even as he said it, he remembered the hidden bases throughout the human solar system. The disguised warships that had appeared from nowhere. The industrial capacity that could convert civilian equipment into military assets. How many human ships were really out there? How many hidden bases existed in asteroid fields throughout Imperial space? How long had the humans been planning this campaign? Sir, Subcommander Krell said quietly, perhaps we should consider negotiating. Negotiating? Vexthul's voice rose with anger. The Zephyrian Empire does not negotiate with primitives. With respect, sir, these primitives have crippled our operations across 3 sectors in less than a week. Commander Vexthul stood in the center of his damaged bridge, watching his empire burn. Reports flooded in from across Zephyrian space. Human raiders had struck 17 major worlds, destroyed 43 supply convoys, and captured or eliminated over 300 Imperial ships. Sir, message from High Command, his communications officer reported with a shaking voice. The Imperial Council is demanding an immediate end to this conflict. Vexthul read the message with growing dread. The Empire's leadership was in panic. Human attacks had disrupted trade routes, damaged industrial centers, and created fear throughout Imperial space. Worlds that had been loyal for centuries were now questioning whether the Empire could protect them. They want me to use the planet killer, Vexthul said quietly. Sub-Commander Krell looked up from his tactical display. Sir? High Command has authorized the use of the Stellar Devastation Protocol. They want me to destroy Earth as an example to other worlds. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about the planet killer, a massive weapon system mounted on the flagship Dominion's Edge that could crack a world's crust and turn its surface into molten rock. It had been used only 3 times in Imperial history, against worlds that had led major rebellions. Sir, that seems extreme, Krell said carefully. The humans have made it necessary, Vexthul replied. But his voice lacked conviction. Their raiders are destroying Imperial prestige across the galaxy. Other species are beginning to think they can resist us too. This was true. Intelligence reports showed that several subject worlds were delaying their tribute payments, claiming shipping difficulties. Some were even making contact with human forces, asking about the possibility of protection against Imperial retaliation. Prepare the stellar devastation weapon, Vexthul ordered. Set course for the human homeworld. We end this war with one decisive blow. The Dominion's Edge began moving toward Earth, its massive bulk accompanied by what remained of the Imperial fleet, 87 warships, all that could be gathered from the chaos spreading across Imperial space. But as they traveled, more bad news arrived. Sir, human forces have attacked the shipyards at Kepler Prime, reported the intelligence officer. They've destroyed our main construction facilities for this sector. And the fuel depot at Rigel Station has been captured, added another officer. The humans are broadcasting surrender demands to the garrison. Vexthul ignored these reports. Soon, none of it would matter. Once Earth was destroyed, human resistance would collapse. The surviving human ships would have no home to protect and no base to return to. Meanwhile, In the asteroid belt around Earth's solar system, Admiral Sarah Volkov received her own intelligence reports. Zephyrian reinforcements were gathering. The enemy flagship was approaching with the largest weapon the Empire possessed. "They're going to try to destroy Earth," reported Captain Torres from his position aboard the command ship Raven's Call. "Our spies confirm they're preparing something called the Stellar Devastation Protocol." Sarah stood in the command center of her hidden base, surrounded by displays showing the positions of ships throughout the solar system. For weeks, her forces had been preparing for this moment. "How long until they arrive?" she asked. 18 hours, Torres replied. Sarah nodded. It was time to reveal humanity's final secret. "Send the activation codes to Project Raven," she ordered. All phases. Throughout the solar system, hidden facilities that had been dormant for 20 years came online. These were not just weapon platforms or disguised ships. These were installations containing technologies developed during the darkest period of the corporate wars, weapons that Earth's government had banned as too dangerous for civilized warfare. On Europa, Colonel Mitchell opened vaults that contained gravitational disruptors, devices that could create artificial black holes. On Titan, Dr. Chen activated quantum mines that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. In the asteroid belt, Captain Yuki began charging weapons that could destabilize the bonds between atomic particles. These were weapons of desperation, created when human corporations fought secret wars with unlimited resources and no moral restrictions. They had been hidden away after the wars ended, deemed too dangerous for normal military use. But defending Earth from alien invaders was not normal military use. "Admiral," reported her chief scientist, Dr. Sarah Kim, "all Project Raven installations report ready status. But I must remind you, some of these weapons are experimental. We're not certain what the long-term effects might be." "The long-term effects of losing this war are much worse," Sarah replied. 16 hours later, the Zephyrian fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. Commander Vexthul stood on his bridge looking at the blue-green world that had caused so much trouble for his empire. "Begin charging the stellar devastation weapon," he ordered. "I want maximum power. Turn their entire planet into molten rock." Deep in the heart of his flagship, massive reactors began building energy for the most powerful weapon in the Imperial arsenal. It would take 2 hours to reach full charge, but once fired, nothing could save the human homeworld. "Sir, sensors are detecting unusual activity throughout the system," his tactical officer reported. "The humans appear to be powering up defensive installations." "It does not matter," Vexthul said. "No defense can stop the planet killer." But as the weapon charged, strange things began happening. Pieces of space debris throughout the system started moving in impossible ways, as if gravity itself was being twisted. Energy readings spiked from locations that should have been empty space. Reality seemed to flicker around certain asteroids. "Sir, I'm getting readings I don't understand," the sensor officer said nervously. "Some of these energy signatures don't match anything in our databases." On Earth, Admiral Sarah Volkov watched the Zephyrian fleet through telescopes and sensors. The enemy flagship was enormous, larger than some moons. Its weapon was already beginning to glow with the power that would destroy her world. "Time to charge?" she asked. 97 minutes, Torres replied. "Good. Begin Phase 1. Throughout the asteroid belt, the first Project Raven weapons activated. Gravitational disruptors created pockets of twisted space-time that pulled Zephyrian ships off course. Quantum mines exploded in multiple dimensions, their effects rippling through normal space like waves in water. "What is happening to my ships?" Vexthul demanded as 3 of his cruisers simply disappeared, caught in gravitational anomalies that crushed them into microscopic points. "Unknown weapons, sir. Our shields cannot stop attacks that don't exist in normal space." More ships vanished as quantum effects tore them apart at the molecular level. Others found themselves trapped in areas where time moved differently, their crews aging years in minutes while their engines ran backward. "This is impossible," Vexthul shouted. "These are not military weapons." He was right. They were not military weapons. They were tools of physics pushed beyond safe limits, created by desperate humans who had learned to break the laws of nature rather than accept defeat. "Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can track them," his aide reported. "Recommend we withdraw and—" "No," Vexthul's voice echoed across the bridge. "Continue charging the planet killer?" Whatever these weapons are, they cannot stop us from destroying their world, but they could do something else. As the stellar devastation weapon reached 80% charge, human forces activated Phase 2 of Project Raven. Dr. Chen's quantum resonance generators began affecting the weapon itself. The carefully controlled reaction that powered the planet killer started becoming unstable as quantum effects interfered with the atomic processes inside it. "Sir, the weapon is experiencing power fluctuations," the weapons officer reported. "Fix it," Vexthul ordered. "I can't, sir. Something is interfering with the quantum matrix. The containment field is becoming unstable." On her command ship, Admiral Sarah Volkov smiled grimly. Humanity's greatest weakness had always been their willingness to use any weapon, no matter how dangerous. During the corporate wars, they had learned to build devices that could destroy planets, collapse stars, or tear holes in space itself. The Zephyrian Empire built weapons to conquer worlds. Humans built weapons to end worlds. Phase 3, she ordered. The final Project Raven installations activated. These were the most dangerous weapons ever created by human science. Devices that could destabilize matter at the quantum level, turning entire ships into energy. The Dominion's edge was caught in a field that began breaking down the atomic bonds in its hull. The massive flagship started coming apart as its own atoms forgot how to hold together. "Abandon ship," Vexthul shouted, but it was too late. The stellar devastation weapon, its containment systems failing, exploded with the force of a small star. The blast consumed the Dominion's edge and 12 other Zephyrian vessels, creating a new sun and Earth solar system that would burn for centuries. When the light faded, only scattered wreckage remained of the Imperial fleet. A few ships had managed to escape to the edge of the system, but they were crippled and fleeing. Admiral Sarah Volkov opened a communication channel that reached every surviving Zephyrian vessel, as well as Imperial installations throughout the galaxy. Thank you for watching and comment for next part.